Research methods, putting a project together, bringing it together. You've thought about the idea, you've done a review of literature. Good job. You reviewed the work, you think you know what the gaps in knowledge are. You've read around the methods. You think you've got a preferred method. You think you've got a question that you want to find out. You've got a preferred method. All good, all good. You've got tests and measures that you think are valid and reliable. You've got references to support the use of those references, of those measures, and that, my friends, is really important, because those references and that evidence on the measures is critical to how the results of the data you will collect is going to be analysed. We have a set of scales that measures 10 stone on one day. Person still remains 10 stone, but it's 10 stone 5 the next day, 9 stone 8 the next day. The scale's all over the place. What on earth can we infer from what's going on? Your measures need to be precise. That's absolutely crystal clear. So we've put the ethics in. The ethics is all about judging the risks. What's going to happen to the participants? Are they going to be injured? Are they going to be exerting themselves to maximum? That's all fine. Are they going to be completing a questionnaire that says how happy they are, how sad they are, how cheerful they are? All that's fine. Are they going to say how anxious they are? All that's fine. Are you going to be asking them to describe their exercise experiences? All of those are fine. Those are normal things to do. What you need to be doing is going, well, that's pretty common research. We've heard that before many, many times. These are the studies that used it. These are the references for the studies that used it. I am following a similar model. All good stuff. All good stuff. You're putting your ethics together. That is absolutely what you need to be doing. So, let us then look at what the next steps are. I've got 5 key points. 5 key points, and then in the lecture I'm going to be going through some examples of student dissertations that were presented at academic conferences back in the early days of 2002. 2003, one around about 2004-05, from the vault of my students' work, which of course some of you, anyone who works with me, will have that work kept. Not that I keep these things just to keep these things safe. No, I keep them just so that I can reminisce on the on a lonely bank holiday Monday when I have nothing to do. I look through some old student presentations, say, those were the days, those were the days. That's not how it goes at all. What we're doing is I like to show the next batch of students what the previous students did. So this was good, this could have been better. The student who did it knows there were strengths, there were bits they'd like to have changed, done differently, done better. There were practicalities around that project that they thought, well, yeah, I could have done that differently. Of course they could have done it differently. And that is the lessons that I want you to take, to benefit from, so that your work does not make the same have the same limitations or make the same, I don't like the word mistakes, but the students, when they look back at their grade and go, if only I would have done differently, then they get their grade and it's not as high as they like, and they're a bit disappointed by that. So we can learn. Reflection about what went well, what didn't go well, is a key to learning. Students have reflected, I've reflected, and that we're going to doing. So what are the key points to doing your work? And these are going to be whizzed through really quickly, in my context really quickly, but you know, that's me, I waffle on forever, is you've got to build a logical argument for what's going on. What you're not doing, and what you think you should be doing in some degrees, is launching everything you know down. So you describe a study, you bung a study down, so-and-so 2012 said this, so-and-so 2008 said this, so-and-so 2004 said this. Fact after fact after fact. Doesn't count for much, does not count for much at all. It could be as illogical as saying ice cream, peas, soup, pudding, potato. Because they're all food, and you're putting everything you know down about food. You need to write a story. Once upon a time, a person went through the whole day. The day started with sunrise. They woke up, they went down, they had breakfast. Breakfast was Weetabix. Weetabix is what you expect for breakfast. They had Weetabix because, and then here comes the explanation, they had Weetabix on most Tuesday mornings, and on their Weetabix they put a few little currants, because that was also what they did on most Tuesday mornings. And the explanation there is just that the storyline is going on. In an academic sense, it would say that previous research has found that mood predicted performance. Beattie et al., good old Chris Beattie, former PhD student of mine and long-time colleague. Research has found that anger and tension are sometimes associated with good performance. And then we can put open brackets. Neville et al., Alan Neville's famous study, famous for me, on running, where anger was associated with good performance. We hypothesised all about determination. Get angry, get determined, get excited, get vigorous. Yeah, it all makes sense. And in other studies, anger is associated with poor performance. And there's a whole raft of studies we can cite down for that. So we could then say research to understand why anger is helpful in some studies and harmful in other studies is not clear, and therefore future research is needed. And we just built a little argument, a little logical argument about where we're going with that and why we need it. To build that logical argument. Second up, support your ideas with references and only describe a study when you need an explanation. And this is really important. This is the point I made at the start. It's not just about launching down everything you know. You use references to support your ideas. More recent references should be better than older references. Why? 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 Why is that? Because the new ones know about the previous research, the old research, and the old ones do not. That doesn't mean you don't read the old ones. Oh no. What that means is you start with the new ones and then work back, because you get an advanced summary of the literature. The new research will offer criticism, offer the limitations, offer where we're going, offer direction in your reading, in your knowledge, in your building, so that you can then selectively, you can be selective in which literature you need to look at. If the more recent research says, don't look at the old work, there are massive methodological flaws that make the conclusions from that research hazardous, untrustworthy, not believable, then you wouldn't read that literature. What you do is you'd peruse it, you'd look at it, you'd see those limitations, and from that you'd then be able to see why and how those authors came to that conclusion. Really important point, really important point. We support your ideas with references. Next key point is the terms you've used. And I've just picked two, demonstrate and suggested. And I get, I tell you what, if I'd have put cause down there, I'd have just been, it would have been, I mean, I can't even think about how emotional I've got if I'd have seen that, when I see the term caused and proved, and then I look at the evidence to support the word caused and proved, and what you don't see is me shaking my head going, oh dear, because you only use words, strong words like proved and caused, where the evidence supporting use of those terms is really, really strong. It's not about the sample size, it's about the design used, about the control of variables that could offer alternative explanations. That is absolutely clear. You can say demonstrate. Let's get what you can do. You can say demonstrate. So if one study demonstrated that one group scored significantly better than another group, there's absolutely factually correct in saying demonstrate. Demonstrate and then describe the facts of that study. Absolutely perfect. Sometimes you need to describe the facts of that study, and that might well be author X demonstrated that more females than males, and then had the next characteristic or whatever that might well be. You could here's an example in eating literature. Research has predominantly focused on examining eating disorders in females rather than males. And research has demonstrated it. You could say that because it's a simple count-up exercise. Demonstrated is the correct term to show that more of one than the other. Suggested is when you're uncertain about the findings. Smith suggested that anxiety might be debilitative of performance. Jones suggested that performance accomplishments might be predictors of self-efficacy. Those type of things. Suggested is a safer word when the evidence is not so strong. Using the right terms to emphasize your findings is really, really important. Overemphasis through proved cause is the no thank you, we don't want any of that. Use the right terms. Just go a bit easier. Look through journal articles. What terms are they using? It's not. You don't have to rack your brain through a thesaurus necessarily, but you do read the previous literature, and that'll give you a really good idea. Then you've done the practicalities. You need to know your method. You need to own that method. You need to know how to collect the data. You need to know the pitfalls. What are going to be the sticking points? It's going to take people ages to fill a questionnaire out, and is it going to take ages to set the lab up, and so on and so forth. You need to pilot that research. The best participant to pilot the research is yourself in many senses, and then from that is someone you know really well, someone to give you honest feedback. Do you look like a competent person collecting the data? Because if you don't look competent, you just need more practice to get competent. You need feedback on that practice. For the labs, you need to be signed off as competent. You need to be good at collecting the data, because if you're good at collecting the data, people will take your study seriously. Yeah? Results. Oh, I tell you, results, stats, anxiety, oh dear, students coming in, anxious look on his face, like, stats, I can't do my stats. Absolutely. What you've got to do from your pilot data is start getting those numbers into the spreadsheet. A spreadsheet you're going to use for your dissertation. That's all the difference is going to be. It's going to be more people added down. More people in spreadsheets are rows. You just add more rows. As simple as that. Right. Some student presentations. I'm going to whiz through these for this presentation. The people who come to the lecture live get the full flow of these absolutely fabulous pieces of work. But what we have was mood changes following exercise in 2002. Some of you are looking at a similar sort of project. This one looked at the role of enjoyment in the process. When people enjoy the exercise more, is there a greater mood enhancing approach? The idea following from Berger and Mottel in 2000, the work stems out of there. Berger and Mottel set up a framework for testing the mood changes following exercise, and they tested a specific part of that model. Great piece of work. Open it up, open the whole thing up via another link, and you'll see what a lovely piece of work that is. We looked at mood and performance relationships in judo. Sample of over 150 people, based on the meta-analysis of BD et al., based on some of my work on mood and the idea that mood, prior to doing something meaningful, has got some relationship with the amount of effort you're going to give, and that's likely to predict your performance. So we looked at the difference between winners and losers by the mood in judo. Very nice study again, large sample. Judo player had good access to participants, managed the data collection very well. Who is this, you ask? The Julian Smith? Could this be the same Julian Smith who is the head of sport? Could it be? 2003, some 13 years ago, was Julian Smith taking a master's program here? Well, I think you'll find he was. And what we looked at with Julian was that Julian at the time was teaching in further education. He was teaching sports college, and he had access to sports people, and they looked at intervention. So we tested the effect of a 4-week intervention on an area that Julian is particularly interested in agility, and looked at how one program led to better agility than another. As he did it with me, we snuck in a few little sneaky psychology variables. The idea that it might be all about confidence changing rather than the physical changes themselves. And that was presented at a conference 2003. Very nicely job too. We shifted the design of presentations after 2006. This was some work we did with Kevin Davis. Kevin was an undergraduate with us and a postgraduate with us, a very intelligent man, and he did some lovely work when he was with us on student sports, and he did interventions to help student athletes get better at coping so they can improve under severe stress. Lovely piece of work. So where do we go from here? As you write the ethics, you pilot the projects. You know how to collect the data. The piloting the project, what that will do, that will illustrate to you some of the issues that are going on regarding the data collection itself. You learn how to put the data onto a spreadsheet, and it will be the same as what you'll do in your dissertation. You build arguments to say why the study is useful. They could be theoretical, it could be practical, but there are arguments. You're telling that story I said before, you build an argument. Yeah, you build an argument. It's not just lob down the facts and hope for the best, not lob down the facts and let the lecturer make sense of what he can. It's about building an argument. Be clear on what you're looking for so you can explain it really clearly. The lift test, what does that mean? The lift test means if you and I go into a lift from the first floor to the third floor, you'll be very scared. But seriously, what that means is in that brief period of time, you could tell me or anyone else what your study was all about in 30 seconds. Can you tell someone else what your study is all about in 30 seconds? Well, that's that. We'll be having, you need to get reading, writing, researching, then reading again, writing and researching, and reading again, reading, looking at data analysis, and you need to be doing this quite a lot of the time because you're going to enjoy it. Okay, that's me over. Bye. Yeah, bye.